Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into one of the most powerful, emotionally charged stories in ancient scripture, the story of a woman named Hagar. And through her experience, we're going to uncover the profound meaning behind a very special ancient name. It's a name that, honestly, totally transforms how we understand compassion, awareness, and divine presence.
But before we get into the history, let me ask you something right off the bat. Have you ever felt completely invisible? Or just entirely forgotten by the world around you? I mean, maybe you've been sitting in a crowded room but felt completely alone, or you've been going through a really tough struggle that nobody else even seems to notice. Hold on to that feeling for a second, because those emotional stakes, that is exactly where our journey begins today.
All right, part 1, the flight to the wilderness. So, to really grasp this narrative from Genesis chapter 16, we've got to look at how fast things fell apart for Hagar, leading to her intense isolation. It all starts with Sarah, who, despite having a divine promise, remains barren. This leads to a really desperate human effort to kind of force a solution. Sarah actually gives her servant, Hagar, to her husband Abraham to produce an heir. But as you might guess, this immediately backfires. Hagar conceives, and this severe conflict, intense jealousy, and mistreatment erupts between the two women. The tension gets so unbearable that it literally pushes Hagar to flee, entirely alone, right into the harsh, unforgiving wilderness.
And what's absolutely crucial to understand here is just how vulnerable Hagar really was. Consider her societal status at this specific moment in history. She's a servant, she's a foreigner, she is a woman with practically zero social standing. So when she runs out into that desert, she is stripped of any safety net she might have had. She's entirely powerless, completely isolated, and, to the rest of the world, seemingly forgotten. Really, she's the ultimate invisible outcast.
But then, wow, we hit this absolutely stunning turning point. Genesis tells us that out there, in the wilderness, the angel of the Lord appeared to her and spoke directly to her, right in the middle of her absolute lowest moment. When she is entirely cut off from human society, God steps directly into her isolation. He doesn't send a message through someone else. He meets her right where she is, proving, without a doubt, she is not abandoned.
Which brings us to Section 2, the roots of El Roi.
This right here is the emotional climax of her realization. Genesis 16:13 records Hagar saying, "Truly, here I have seen him who looks after me." Just imagine the sheer awe and the massive relief in her voice. This runaway, discarded servant realizes that the creator of the universe hasn't just noticed her in passing, but is actively looking after her.
So, let's actually break down that ancient Hebrew she uses. The first part is El. In ancient Hebrew, El translates to God, the mighty one, the strong one. This word establishes the ultimate power, the absolute majesty, and the unshakable strength of the divine. It is, for sure, a word of supreme authority.
And that brilliantly pairs with the second root, Ra. This comes from the Hebrew verb ra'ah, which means to see, to perceive, to watch, or to regard. It implies a really deep, intentional focus. God isn't just glancing in her general direction, He is perceiving her reality. He is fully watching over her.
Put them together, and you get the beautiful resolution to Hagar's story, El Roi, the God who sees me, or the God of seeing. Think about the power of that combination for a second. The ultimate, unmatched strength of the universe, the mighty one, is completely united with this intimate, personal observation. Hagar is fully seen by the mighty one.
All right, Section 3, the compassion of omniscience.
When you put human society's view right next to God's view, the contrast is honestly staggering. Society so often overlooks the marginalized, the people without status, just like they did with Hagar. But God's view, it's radically different. He didn't just passively spot Hagar out there in the desert. He actually spoke to her. He called her by name. He gave her promises, and he actively guided her future. His omniscience is deeply, deeply personal.
And as the source material shows us, this wasn't just some one-off event. Throughout Scripture, God consistently notices the oppressed, the poor, the lonely, widows, orphans, and foreigners. The exact people that society tends to push to the absolute fringes. Those are the very people God keeps his eyes firmly fixed upon. Hagar's experience isn't an exception at all. It perfectly reflects God's consistent nature.
There's this verse, Exodus 3:7, that captures this perfectly. God says, "I have surely seen the affliction of my people." See, God's omniscience, his all-knowing nature, it's not just passive observation from a distance. It's not like a security camera coldly recording data. It is an intense compassion combined with a total readiness to act upon human suffering.
And that actually leads us to this fascinating recurring motif of the wilderness. In the Bible, the wilderness symbolizes loneliness, testing, uncertainty. It's a place where you're forced into a dependence upon God. But, and here's the amazing part, it is also the premier site for spiritual encounters. God repeatedly met monumental figures like Moses, Elijah, and John the Baptist in places of complete isolation. The wilderness is where all the noise and distractions fade away, and the God who sees becomes vividly apparent.
Moving into Section 4, Jesus as the Seeing God.
Fast forward to the New Testament, and you see Jesus perfectly embodying the compassion and awareness of El Roi during his earthly ministry. Take the Samaritan woman at the well, for example. Just like Hagar, she was an outcast, yet Jesus knew her entire life story and spoke with her directly. Or think about blind Bartimaeus. While the crowds were actively trying to silence this beggar, Jesus stopped everything for him. Jesus spiritually and physically noticed the exact individuals that society chose to ignore. He was literally El Roi in action.
Which leads us to our final section, Part 5, the God who sees you.
Because the truth is, El Roi didn't just stop seeing people once the Bible was finished. Today, he sees your hidden tears. He hears those silent prayers. He sees your unseen faithfulness when absolutely nobody is giving you credit. He sees your private suffering. If you are in your own modern wilderness season right now, feeling isolated and overwhelmed, the source material reassures us that your struggles are fully known and deeply cared for by God. And honestly, understanding this, it completely flips how we think about communicating with him. Jesus taught in Matthew 6:8, "Your Father knows what you need before you ask him." When you realize you are talking to El Roi, prayer stops being this formal presentation where you have to inform God of your needs. Instead, you're confidently entering into a relationship with the God who already sees you perfectly.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with one final challenging thought. What changes in your life when you realize that in your deepest wilderness, your hidden tears are fully seen by the Mighty One? Take some time to reflect on that today. Thank you so much for joining me to explore the beautiful truth of El Roi. Keep learning, keep seeking, and I'll catch you next time.